Hello and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sara.
And we're going to give you a nice rundown through the big leagues because some big things have happened. We've hit the playoffs and we now know our 8 teams, and the drama that almost, but didn't, almost gave us NWSL After Dark.
Almost. So I think it would have felt like it had we had decision day and all of these games were happening at the same time and we were watching these teams move around on the live table. But nonetheless, it did not happen. Louisville fans, my condolences. It always hurts to be the team that misses out ever so slightly. But we got the playoff picture, you're right, and we are so excited to talk about it on the episode today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to give you some a pick and mix of news because the bits and pieces have come out recently that we feel need to have some attention. So we're going to talk about the Michelle Kang empire and the clubs that she is after and wants to build upon. There's a little bit of Jamaica news. We're going to hit the WSL and talk about how the league is looking at the moment. Certain teams are doing well, certain teams are not. And we're also going to talk about how hard it is to lose your job in the WSL as a manager, because it doesn't seem to be that hard at the moment.
Listen, dare I say this? I think I'm going to get some blowback from this. I don't know, is it me or has the WSL been a little bit boring so far this year? Or is it just that moment where the NWSL playoffs are starting and so I kind of am fully focused on that and the WSL just falls behind and then I'll be excited for the WSL when the NWSL ends?
I feel there are moments in the WSL that have been fantastic, but it has been a little bit predictable. We were just talking and you were like, oh, so-and-so beat a team. And I went, yeah, but the way things are going, I expected that team to lose and I expected that team to win. There's not much mystery at the moment. I can almost sit and predict what's going to happen, which makes me sad.
And we weren't planning on this, but I feel like it's worth saying, especially considering that the NWSL has been so top heavy this year. And what I mean by that is teams are outperforming historical point records. San Diego Wave won the Shield with 37 points last year. And if you have 37 points this year, you're sitting in 6th place. It's been so top heavy. And I feel like the WSL, it doesn't feel as top heavy. It doesn't feel, I guess it feels more like bottom. I don't know. It's more spread out. And so the results feel more predictable. And maybe that's why it feels a little more boring to me right now.
So we're going to start off by talking about some news topics that have hit the women's football world. I'm going to start off with the titan that is Michelle Kang. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Michelle Kang is a woman that has made a lot of money. I'm not 100% sure how she made her money, but she made a lot of money.
Real quick to throw this in, she was a partner at Ernst & Young law firm specializing in high-tech and telecommunications industries, and she joined Northrop Grumman in 2000 as the vice president of their e-business unit. She later worked as the vice president and deputy general manager of global information technology division, basically high up in a lot of tech stuff. Thank you, Wikipedia. Also, if anybody wants to fact check us, that came from Wikipedia.
So that does seem to be where she made her money, was in tech boom, and she seems to be doing it to invest in women's sport. Or sport in general, because I've just had a quick look. But specifically, it does look like a lot of women's sport. And I think there was a great quote that I found of hers, which she said that women's sport is not a charity. I'm not doing this to make myself feel good or to give back as it was. This is an investment to make me money. So therefore, I want to get this to the highest standard, which, to be honest, I respect.
Oh, yeah.
This is not some pity money that she's throwing away. She's like, no, I can see that you can be a viable business. I'm going to give you this money, but I want my money back.
Absolutely. And that's something that we've all been shouting from the rooftops for a long time. We knew this wasn't a charity, but I think we're at the point now where anybody who's worked or has existed or has been a fan of this industry for a long time knows that. But the people who live on the outskirts who maybe don't pay attention to women's sports are still looking at it like it's a charity. So we're in this weird balance. So I appreciate that she's saying that. And also, yeah, hello.
So for anybody who doesn't know, that Michelle Kang had a controlling membership in the Washington Spirit, Lyon, the London City Lionesses, And the reason for this conversation is she is looking to take a controlling stake into Levante in the Spanish La Liga F, which would be her 4th women's football club and her 5th sporting adventure, but one to do with baseball, so we don't talk about that.
I mean, listen, first of all, I think that in terms of the club she targeted, excellent selection. Levante are always the team that sit just on the outskirts of Champions League, and they just need that small extra bump. And I think that they really could compete with the Real Madrid, with the Atletico Madrid, the two teams that generally are falling second and third underneath Barcelona. But I have to say, Allie, when you texted me that this was happening, the first question in my mind was, is there a point where there's just too many clubs where there might, I don't know how there could be a conflict of interest because they're all in different leagues until maybe they both make Champions League and they both play against each other.
There is a fear of monopoly because even if they're in different leagues, like you said, if they're in Champions League, so say Lyon took on Levante, if Levante got to Champions League, then that is a conflict of interest because you get money when you win in the Champions League, and it's like, does it then affect what team is playing is in personnel, because depending on which team you want to get the money. I know that there was a thing that came out fairly recently about the fact that I budgeted Bonmati to go to Lyon, and the reason Bonmati didn't was not necessarily a loyalty to Barcelona, was because it was literally said as soon as she signed for Lyon, she was being shipped out to Washington Spirit. And because Michelle Kang owns both, she can do that.
Yeah, that's where we start to run into the issue. I was like, there's got to be a problem here, and where is it? And we saw it very obviously when she wanted to buy Washington Spirit, but she's the owner of Lyon, and Lyon had initially, for a while, owned the Seattle Reign, and so that was a whole thing. But with the players, I mean, she's doing incredible things for women's soccer right now, and what she's been doing with London City Lionesses is just wonderful. But that's a big issue that you just bring up. That is a big
issue. That is a huge issue because you're taking away player autonomy because they're all within the same family. It's probably in the contract you go.
I mean, this isn't going to happen, but I guess what could happen is that it all ends up under Michelle Kang's power, and she basically just gets to play like FIFA, but but in the real world, where she's like, I want to select my ideal team that's going to play here, that's going to play here, that's going to play here, and now I'm going to play them against each other. Yeah, listen, obviously, I think Michelle Kang is out to do well, but this one maybe raised a red flag for me, where I was like, oh, how many is too many?
For me, I think for Levante, this is a good thing, because Levante have been financially struggling for a while. Both their men's and women's team. We saw recently that Bordeaux in the French league folded, and that was again affected their men's and women's team, and that's been a team in the league for a century. Like it was a huge team to fold. And so for me, I do think maybe this one is a good one, because it's not like she's buying Barcelona and buying titles. She's hopefully helping a team that is struggling and is going to save a lot of jobs long term. We've seen the talent her investment can bring, because you just have to look who's turned up at the London City Lionesses with Aslani. So I think this one could be a good one, but I feel like this could be her last foray into football before governing bodies may have questions. I don't think she'll stop. I don't think she'll want to stop. I feel like governing bodies, specifically if she picks up any more European teams.
I was going to say, I think UEFA's going to have something to say if she goes into any more European teams. Yep.
I was going to say, you've got a French one and possibly a Spanish one. If you start looking in Germany, that's when UEFA are going to put your foot down and be like, maybe not.
I'm going to put a bet on and say she's going to go to Mexico next.
That would be a good one.
I think it's a great investment.
I think that is a great investment.
All right, on to news topic number 2, the second of our 2 topics in this news segment. We're going to talk international soccer, and specifically we're going to talk about the Jamaican national team. Now, this is a team that we talked about a lot during the World Cup. There have been numerous updates since then, so the biggest one came recently. We're going to get into a little bit of just history reminder of what they've been through in the past few years, and then what's happening right now.
So, as a reminder, in the 2023 World Cup, they had to fundraise to get themselves there, as well as any supporters, anything else. They had to do it all by themselves. This isn't even the first time Jamaica have had to do that. In 2014, the team had to raise money to pay for practices, travel expenses, housing, nutrition, and coaches and that one, equipment in preparation of the 2014 CONCACAF. We know they've had a lot of funding from the Marley family, but that seems to be tapering off now because it should really come from the federation. They needed that place in 2014 to get their spot in the 2015 Women's World Cup. The 2023 World Cup was their second consecutive World Cup, which they managed to reach despite the fact that the Jamaican Football Federation, that's the JFF, cut the senior women's program in 2010, and they weren't recognised by FIFA until 2017.
So 2023 World Cup head coach was Lauren Donaldson, and he was named in 2022, took them through the 2023 World Cup. He parted ways with the federation after the World Cup, and he was then hired by the Chicago Red Stars, where he is currently still coaching, doing a great job there. So all of this news is surrounding the head coaching job because Jamaica Football Federation has falsely claimed that their head coach, Herbert Busby Jr., was cleared of the alleged sexual misconduct, and he has been reappointed as the head coach of the Jamaican women's national team. But again, this was falsely claimed. So briefly on him, he was the head coach in 2020 through 2021 until he was suspended by the federation after a former player, when he was coaching in Vancouver, had alleged that he'd made sexual advances towards her while he was that head coach. Now, this all happened in May, and it didn't make news until now. Thank you to The Guardian for putting this out. We'll link. We've already posted this article, but we'll link it again on our socials for anybody who wants to read a little bit more in depth. But basically, what has happened was Busby returned in May. The Jamaican Football Federation said that in a media release, quote, after careful consideration and due process, our technical committee has recommended the immediate reappointment of Herbert Busby as head coach of the senior women's national team. He was removed from the position while the JFF requested FIFA to investigate unsavory media reports originating in Europe. FIFA subsequently cleared Mr. Busby. So there's so much wrong about that. First and foremost, FIFA confirmed to The Guardian that they did not clear Busby. However, they did say that the investigation was closed because the statute of limitations has expired. The player who made these accusations was never interviewed by FIFA or the JFF. They've just let this allegation sit until the statute of limitations closed, and then they closed the case. So technically he was not cleared, but also the case isn't open anymore. So Jamaica Football Federation has decided they don't care, and they have reinstated him. And that is the news. Simply that a head coach with allegations of sexual misconduct that were never investigated has been cleared to coach once again at the senior national team level for Jamaica. I don't even know. There's nothing really for us to say, Allie, is there?
No, it's a case of I am not surprised. And I'm not really shocked because it just feels like this keeps happening, and it frustrates me because you see so many times we'll go, oh, rape allegations ruin a man's career. I've yet to see that happen. I have yet to see that happen because people are getting hired back once they think enough time has passed.
Also, they should ruin his career.
Oh no, I agree, but it annoys me when people are like, oh, it ruins a man's career, and I'm like, show me when. Show me when.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The player who came forward said, quote, my former teammates were grateful when our story went public. I wish what happened to me to no one. I risked my name and career speaking out. And then went on to say that, quote, there's evidence to support my allegations and it needs to be investigated. Unfortunately, the harsh reality we have learned in the world of sports over the last decade is that governing bodies do not protect players. They protect themselves and their coaches, unquote. And I think that frankly says it all. I don't understand how these players are supposed to compete at this high level. And it's just another case of what this team could be if the correct funding and care was taken. I mean, you look at the players that they have Bunny Shaw, they have Drew Spence, they have Alison Swaby. Like, there's just so much that could happen here, and it's so disappointing.
Over to the NWSL, and we finally have our full playoff picture. The final games happened this weekend, and we have our final 8.
Let's do it. So coming into this, we knew the scenarios. We knew that which teams controlled their own destiny. Bay FC and Portland did what they needed to do. They both got the 3 points. Chicago lost, which left Portland in 6, Bay in 7, Chicago in 8. So let's look at this playoff picture, Allie. We've got, for a reminder for everybody, because it's 8 teams now, expanded from 6 last year, there's no buys. Nobody gets a first round bye. 1 will play 8, 2 will play 7, 3 will play 6, and 4 will play 5. So, and we're divided into a bracket just like in the World Cup where there's 2 sides, and then those sides will meet in the final. So let's take a look. Let's call it the left side of the bracket and the right side of the bracket, Allie, because I think that's easy for everybody to visualize, right? The left side of the bracket, number 1, Orlando Pride against number 8, Chicago Red Stars, and number 4, Kansas City Current versus number 5, North Carolina Courage.
Okay, and then on the right side, we have Washington Spirit versus Bay FC. And then we have Gotham versus Portland Thorns.
Yep, that's a 2-7 and then 3-6. I'm so excited. What am I going to say? I'm so excited. Okay, but we've got some questions here because some of these teams, despite finishing high, have had a tough end of the season, and vice versa. Some of these teams, despite finishing in the lower 4, have had a great end of the season. So let's dig into this and, of course, frankly, just get into the matchups and the picks. Allie, who is your wild card, low seed, so bottom 4, that could go all the way? We'll call it the Gotham of this year.
Do you know what? I think Bay FC have managed to... They started off really shaky and they were sort of leaking goals and couldn't quite get that win. But we've talked about it so many times that momentum is so important when it comes to these playoff games. And I think Bay picked up their momentum at the right time. So yes, they're going to have a tough game against Washington, who are the 2nd seed. They've had a fantastic season. But I feel like Bay have picked up this momentum of being the little engine that could. So for me, Bay is my wild card that could pull Gotham and go all the way.
You took the words right out of my mouth, actually. I feel like I've been saying this about Bay since Abby Delkemper joined. Have I not?
You have been singing their praises, specifically of Delkemper.
I have been, but I'll also say I think it's a little bit of a process of elimination because you look at the other 3 teams in the bottom 4, which is North Carolina at 5, Portland at 6, and Chicago at 8. Portland are in the playoffs because of what they were able to do in the first part of the season, not what they've been able to do in the back half of the season. I don't think that they're a strong contender right now for the playoffs. North Carolina and Chicago, in my opinion, had very shaky final games. I think if Chicago had won their final game against Kansas City, I would throw them in there with Bay FC, but they did not look good. They did not look strong. So for that reason, I'm not going to throw them in there. And then North Carolina as well. I mean, that game against Washington Spirit, they did not show well. I mean, neither team had a shot. Neither team had a shot in the entire first half, which was crazy. But I wanted to see more from them. And yes, they held a strong Washington Spirit team to just 1 goal, but I wanted to see just more, and I didn't. So I really think it's got to just be Bay.
Okay, let's go the other end and go which top seed team, Sarah, are you most worried about? That's the teams 1 to 4. Do you think are going to crash and burn in this first stage?
That's a harder question because they've all been outstanding. I suppose the easy answer is to say Kansas City because they are in the 4 spot, so they are technically, the worst team. But they all look so strong. However, if I have to pick one, I might have to say Orlando. And it has nothing to do with who's on that team. What it has to do with is the fact that the amount of pressure that mounts when you have the undefeated season, when you are the number 1 seed, and then you couple that with hosting your first playoff game, a team that hasn't really experienced the playoffs before. It's a lot of firsts coupled with a lot of pressure. And it could go either way. They could handle it wonderfully, or it could be a breaking point. And we've seen some cracks in them in the last few games. That's not saying much because they are incredible still. But I think for those more like intangible reasons, I'll just say Orlando. What about you?
Do you know what? Mine is apropos of the playoffs rather than what the season has held. Because I know you've written off Portland because you're like, no, they got here by the skin of their teeth. You're done. However, I am slightly worried about Gotham playing Portland because I feel like Portland have got the same mentality that Gotham had last year, which was last year it was do it for the Kriegs, do it for the players that were retiring, and Portland have got do it for Sink. And we can see that can be a huge motivator. That can be a massive motivator. We saw it with Brazil in the Olympics to get that silver medal for Marta. It's a huge motivator, and I feel like Gotham may go in being like, it's Portland, they've been dodgy all season, and Portland are going to come in with that momentum and that energy of we're doing it for one of the greatest footballers of all time. But like you, I'm not actually that worried about any of the top 4. I think they've had strong seasons. I think they are going to do really well. So yeah, but if I had to pick one I'm slightly worried for, it's Gotham.
If Shawinga is injured, which we don't know because they've just said that she didn't play because of her knee, we don't really know anything beyond that. And if she will be available, it seems like with the way everybody's talking about it, everybody thinks that she will be available for this coming weekend. But if she's not, I would worry if I was Kansas City for the sole reason that they are the 4 seed and they're playing the 5 seed. And Kansas City has plenty of other talent on that team that can pick it up and that can score goals. But that's a big element to be missing in terms of going deep into the playoffs. All right, let's just do it, Allie. Let's make our picks. 4 games, 1 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, everybody. So you're going to be in front of your television all weekend. Just give into it. That's what's going to happen. Let's start with the Friday game. It's the 1 seed Orlando Pride hosting the 8 seed Chicago Red Stars. Let's just go back and forth. You go first on this one. I'll go first on the next one. Allie, make your pick. Orlando or Chicago?
Orlando, 100%. I think Orlando have been the more consistent of the two.
I would agree. It's going to be Orlando. At home, the number 1 seed, Chicago, I wasn't super impressed by in that final game. I think it's just maybe one too many obstacles for them to overcome. It's going to be Orlando.
Okay, to game 2 on the Saturday, which is the Kansas City Current versus the North Carolina Courage. Sarah, who are you taking in this game?
Ooh, this is a tough one. The number 4 versus the number 5. I'm sorry, I'm going to give it to Kansas City. I know that's the boring answer. I don't know if there really is like an underdog in this game, though. I don't think you can say like an upset. You can't really say like the 5 upset the 4.
No, it's the closest.
This is, I think, the game I'm most excited for. This one and Washington Bay, but this one I think is going to be really, really fun. But Kansas City, because of all of the weapons that they have, because of the fact that they're playing in that home stadium, which has been outstanding, sold out every single game in the regular season, by the way. That's an NWSL league record. And you couple that with the poor performance that North Carolina is coming off of, I give it to Kansas City. What about you?
Oh, it is really close to call because both teams have been very similar all season. I'm going to give it to Kansas City, not just to copy you, but I do think home advantage is a real thing. And if you...
Baby, you can copy me. That's totally...
And if you can make it a fortress, which Kansas City appear to have done, then fantastic. So I think it's going to be hard playing a team that you're close on skill and level with, and you take what advantage you've got, and home advantage is a huge advantage. So yeah, I'll give it to Kansas City.
I can see how this is shaping out, and I think that we're going to have the same answer on this next one and a different answer on the last game. Sunday's first game, number 2, Washington Spirit hosting number 7, Bay FC. Allie?
I love me an underdog, so I'm going to go Bay FC.
Listen, the smart thing to say here is that Washington Spirit are going to win this game, because you look at what has happened when these two teams have faced each other in the regular season, and you simply have to give it to Washington Spirit. But what fun is it if you don't pick an upset? I have a slight feeling you might be picking two upsets right now. I was going to pick Bay because I think it's fun to pick an upset, and I'm not going to pick Portland to upset. However, when I look at these two teams, I think Washington Spirit is a better team. Oh, I'm sorry, Washington. I think I have to pick an upset. So I'm going to go with Bay FC. I'm just going to do it.
Okay, and then the final game, which is also on the Sunday, it is Gotham at home to Portland Thorns. I think I can guess who you're going to pick, Sarah, but let's confirm it.
It's got to be Gotham. I'm sorry, Portland fans. I don't really think that this team has figured it out again. They were vibing well at the beginning of the season, and it's been just terrible since the Olympics. And yes, they've been able to turn it around slightly, like enough to grab 2 wins and still make the playoffs. But there's only so much that playing for Christine Sinclair can do. And it can't get you an NWSL championship. And I don't think it's enough to beat this Gotham team with the amount of threats that they have on the field right now.
No, my heart does say Gotham because we all know that Gotham is my NWSL team, but I still feel like there is something for playing for a legend to spur a team on. I think if anybody watched the last game when they were doing the speeches and they were talking about what Sync meant to them all, and then she just goes, "I'm not dead," which I thought was just classic Sync.
There were so many great moments from that game, and I feel like I cried so many times. But yeah, that moment after the game when Sophia Smith was crying and Sync was like, "I'm not dying."
That's what I'm saying. There's movie endingness about it.
I think that was the ending of the movie, though. I think that was it. I think that's the happy ending. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
To France, and Lyon took down arch rivals PSG with a 1-0 win this weekend to regain the top spot in the league. Paris FC drew with Nantes to remain third. However, Fleury 91 and Dijon are hot on their heels in 4th and 5th.
To Germany, despite their rocky start to the season, Wolfsburg have started to climb the table. They are second after their win this weekend. Bayern Munich and Eintracht Frankfurt drew to keep themselves in Champions League qualifications.
To Scotland, and Glasgow City remain top of the league after their 3-0 win over Partick Thistle. Rangers have managed to break their drawing streak with an emphatic win over Montrose. Hearts keep up the chase in third, however, with their win over Dundee United.
To Spain, Barcelona remain unbeaten in the league with 8 wins out of 8. Atletico Madrid have leapfrogged over Real Madrid to go into second after their draw. However, game of the week goes to Real Betis versus Levante Badalona, which ended 4-3. 4 goals were scored within 7 minutes in this breathtaking tie. For anybody in the United States listening, a tie in England means a game. So it did not end in a draw. The tie ended in a 4-3 score. Sorry to break protocol on that, but it had to be explained.
Apparently.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
To the WSL for our final topic of the episode. We're going to talk, I don't even know what they call it anymore. Barclays WSL. It's not the FA WSL anymore. Whatever they want to call it, it's the WSL, everybody. And we are going to talk about it. And Allie, you went to go support my Gunners this weekend.
Oh, I like how you think that, but okay.
You were at the United Arsenal game at Lee Sports Village. It's always fun when one of us is at one of these big games. So tell me all about it.
So I was there because it was my friend's birthday, so that was their birthday plan. So we went to go watch this game. I will say it wasn't a classic, and that's leading on to one of our topics. But it was great to be surrounded by the Manchester United fans. They are very passionate. They were chanting all game. I think one of my favourite moments was they were where I was standing were quite near the Arsenal fans, and the Arsenal fans all had a section of them had a sign that said "We've got Lesia Russo," and the Man United fans near me went, "You can keep her, we don't want her." So there is no love lost between Russo and Man United fans. And I will say, because you've got a take on this, because we were talking about this before, I do have a slight bugbear, is the fact that, as I said, Man United fans didn't shut up singing. They were really passionate, giving it all game. It was fantastic. And they have this one chant, which is about Man United being the team for me. And if anybody's a football fan will know it, it's the knick-knack, paddywhack, Man United is the team for me. And they keep saying City go on home, regardless of who they're playing. And I'm like, this is why Manchester City thinks you're obsessed with them. Because you could easily change that to whatever team you're playing. To tell Arsenal to go on home, to tell Chelsea to go on home. The fact you still keep it as Man City is the reason that Man City will give digs at you that you're obsessed with them.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me as much as it seems to bother you.
Bothers me so much.
It really doesn't. I mean, there is a rivalry between the Manchester teams, so it's kind of like on your high horse of City to be like, oh, you're so obsessed with me. It's like, you hate them just as much as they hate you, so what are we doing here?
But this game has led to my first thought about the WSL, and I would love to get your opinion on this, Sarah, which is, why is it so hard to lose your job in the WSL? Because I watched this game, and I'm going to talk about my beloved West Ham as well, because they're in a similar boat. Worse boat, to be honest. But this game, Man United were poor. And I feel a lot of this was down to Mark Skinner, because he had players out of position. I mean, Ella Toone, God bless her soul, I think needs another month off to deal with all of the stuff that's going on in her personal life. But she was off pace. Grace Clinton's giving her great balls to latch onto, and she's nowhere near them. The players don't seem to want to tackle them or give any pressure. They were backing off. They was like, again, for easy balls, and it wasn't even about being offside. It was just, there was no pressure. The goal that Russo got, she was completely unmarked. You know, it wasn't, again, until he made some tactical changes, including 37-year-old Rach Williams, who I have a lot of love for Rach Williams. I've talked a lot about putting respect on that name. But your striking prowess should not be down to a 37-year-old substitute. And it feels like it is. And it feels like they are scraping by just enough to keep him in a job. So they managed to get the draw from a set piece. It was Mallard that got the equaliser from the Russo game, and that will keep him safe for another week or so.
Well, I don't even really think it's about Skinner or United. Like, we've talked about Mark Skinner, and we've when Jonas Eidevall left Arsenal, we talked about the comparison between the two and the fact that results were the difference here. First of all, I don't think that Mark Skinner's on the chopping block.
Yeah, but why? That's the thing.
Well, actually, that kind of brings us back to what I brought up at the intro, which is the NWSL is a very top-heavy league right now. The WSL is not. There are not a lot of really great teams in the WSL right now, which is, I think, different from previous years. There used to be a few, maybe even 4, really great teams that were vying for a Champions League spot. There aren't right now. There just aren't. I think City is a great team. Chelsea are pretty good. And then what's left? So it's not really a question of United. I think it's just a question of, I think that the quality has frankly just gone down across the board. Maybe not across the board. The quality at the top has gone down while the quality across the board in the bottom and the middle has actually gone up. And that's what this is pointing to.
See, I understand that, and I do get that, but I feel like my beloved West Ham is going through the same thing. Both teams had shocking seasons last season, and nothing has changed. why, you know what, like, I don't like calling for people's jobs. I don't, but I say it for my own manager. If we don't get anything against Leicester this weekend, she's got to go, because but I don't think the club will. And it just seems to be, I don't know if it's either that there is a lack of replacements out there. There is a lack of, and this is something that's been talked about a lot, about the fact that the UK is one of the most expensive places to get your coaching badges and your coaching licenses. So there's not many British managers, so it's whether clubs want to go and look internationally, or if clubs really aren't, like, the managing directors and the governing bodies really don't care that much about their women's team, so therefore are very much of the it will do.
Absolutely, it's both. Maybe this is something that will change when some team like London City Lionesses comes screaming into the league, and Michelle Kang shows everybody what you can do, and when you invest in your team, players and coaches alike. I think it's everything you just said.
Which leads us very nicely on to have a look over the all picture of the table. Interestingly, Brighton are third right now, and I know Brighton fans are very happy right now. They've not had that. I think they've had one loss.
Yeah, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And I think I know what you're going to say is that they haven't really been tested.
That's not what I was going to say. You always make it sound like I'm so negative about what they've been done. I was going to say that, you know what, they're currently proving us wrong in terms of the manager. The manager got Manager of the Month for October. They've signed really well, and it's quite nice to see a team that's not the traditional 1, 2, 3 teams.
Yeah, and they're playing Arsenal this Friday, which is going to be so interesting. A team that has historically been on the bottom, that is playing well, that has momentum, against a team that historically has been on the top, but is currently sitting in
fifth
place and is definitely not on the rise right now.
Based on what I saw on Sunday, Brighton, I think you're going to have a great time.
Now, see, this is why I'm like, am I crazy to say the WSL is boring? Because this is what I've wanted. This is what I have wanted this whole time, so that I didn't sit here and say, well, the top 4, City, Chelsea, United, Arsenal. And I'm not sitting here saying that. I am sitting here and saying the top 4, City, Chelsea, United, and Brighton. So it's one different, but this is what we've wanted the whole time. We've wanted different teams at the top. I think this is going to be a really big test. Also because it will be at Arsenal, and there's just a certain mental hurdle you have to climb. Even if you are a better team, when you go into a team's home that you have a terrible record against historically, it's just a mental hurdle. So this will tell us a lot about what this Brighton team is made of.
No, absolutely. But I think a big point is that I think this league is going to be won and lost on goal difference again. And if that is true, Chelsea are going to win it, because at the moment, Chelsea have got a Barcelona-esque goal difference of plus 17 right now, with a game in hand.
You think, I don't think it's going to be goal difference. I think City are going to take it outright. These two, Chelsea and City, play each other in 2 weeks. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. And I think City are going to destroy Chelsea.
Wow, you think they could destroy them?
I don't think that they're comparable right now. I think Chelsea are doing well, but I think City are in a different category from Chelsea. I think that's like obviously that's a really big thing to say. Especially considering the fact that Chelsea have only won their matches and City have won 5 and drawn 1. Chelsea just haven't drawn. But, and also considering who Chelsea have played, I mean, they've taken down Arsenal, they've taken down Tottenham, and now they'll face City, but City are my favorites to win the league for a reason. So I don't think it'll come down to goal differential. You want to know who I'm disappointed in? Not that you asked me, but it's Aston Villa.
I was going to, because I know you have got some thoughts. Aston Villa are currently 10th at the moment, equal points with both West Ham and Everton, but do have a better goal difference. They lost to Liverpool this weekend 2-1, And I know this is the team we were talking about in the top where you were like, oh, that was a bit of a shock. And I was like, no, because if you look at how things are at the moment, Liverpool are on the rise and Aston Villa are on the fall. And you look at the squad on paper, that shouldn't be happening. So let's talk about Villa.
Oh, God. This team. I'm not even an Aston Villa fan, and I feel so disappointed by them. I just don't understand what's not clicking for them. And, well, we all remember last year's Aston Villa. Everybody had such high hopes because of who they'd signed. They got Rachel Daly. They got Jordan Nobbs. Did they have Hannah Hampton at the time in goal as well? It felt like a team that absolutely was going to contend with the top teams, and they just fell so quickly. They had a great first performance. They didn't get the result, but it was a good performance, and then it just dropped. And I didn't expect the same thing to happen this year, I have to say. You look at their first game this year, and it was good. It felt like we're building on things right now. What was it? That was the 1-0 against Chelsea, how they started the season. A tough opponent to start the season against, right? And then it was 2-2 against Tottenham. Okay, again, you didn't get the result, but a good performance against a good team. And then it just starts to really break down. They lost 4-2 against Brighton. There were 2 red cards in that game. That was wild. They tied versus Leicester City, and then they lost to City. So perhaps their record is just simply not indicative of their performances on the field. That's absolutely an option. I haven't watched them for the past 2 weeks. I watched them in the first 3. But at a certain point, you just have to get the results. And for the players that they have on this team, it is unbelievable that they are sitting winless in this league still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you did watch the game this week, they were absolutely, and this is their coach's words, diabolical in the first half. They didn't turn up. They were tentative. They were cagey. They weren't stringing passes together. He made triple substitution at half time, which very rarely happens in this league. And that did allow them to get a goal back, but they still are winless. And they are one of 3 sides that have not managed to get a win yet in the league.
I think that they're just a great mystery to me, because when you look at their personnel, it should be better. And for me, that means one of 2 things. One, it could be the coaching. I don't think it is. They fired their coach. They brought in a new one. We still have the same problem. So that's probably not the issue. And then you have to point to what we spoke about last year with Villa, which is there's something in the team chemistry that's just not there. It's not working. Perhaps it's the leadership on the field. Perhaps it's just simple team chemistry where they just don't vibe. And that makes a big difference. I don't know, but it is becoming one of the greatest mysteries of women's soccer to me. And I can't crack the case, and it's killing me. What do you think it is?
It's one of those things because, like, it seems like the club overall is backing the team. They've made some great signings. Gabby Nunes coming in, and she's the one that got the goal against Liverpool this weekend, is fantastic. They've got the Darlie Daly connection. They have Sabs D'Angelo, who they'd got from Arsenal. So they've made some good things. I feel the problem is that they do that thing of where they buy a load of new players and they overhaul every year, and that ruins the chemistry. And it just ruins the chemistry every single time. And then they build it back up. And the one time we've seen them get really good results and build that is when they kept the team and just added some key pieces to the Villa magic. And I feel like they've just basically stripped it every year and tried to build it back up. And that's going to take a lot of time. And it's time they don't have, because it's a small league. You have 22 matches to build this chemistry, and if you've stripped it down, and especially if there's major tournaments in the summer that your players are playing in and not coming back to, you're going to get until December before you get that chemistry, and that could be your relegation battle over, because we saw that with Bristol, where they were essentially relegated in December, January. So, yeah, I think that's the problem, and they just need to get it together.
Do you think it's leadership on the field or no?
It does wonder, because there is, I mean, obviously Rachel Daly is the captain and Rachel Daly is a force to be reckoned with. But there is still a lot of experience on pitch. You know, Jordan Nobbs has just entered with the most appearances in the WSL. And you've also got Darley and Leon as well. And there's also a lot of youngsters. I do feel like I hate goalkeeper captains. Striker captains, again, are a bit of a no with me, because again, they are in too far the other end to see what's going on behind. I like a defender, I like a midfielder captain. So yeah, maybe you need to switch it up with Daly and have someone else come in. I think Jordan Nobbs would be a fantastic captain. Just throwing that out there.
All right, any matchups other than the one I already mentioned of Brighton Arsenal that you're looking forward to for this weekend, Allie?
Well, speaking of, I think that a great one is always Manchester City versus Spurs. That is happening on Friday. They've got 2 evening kickoffs on the 8th of November.
So you can watch those if you're in the US during the daytime while you're at work instead of working. And then you can watch the NWSL at night when you get home.
See, it works out perfectly for you. But I always love them 2 teams playing, because we've seen before where Spurs have managed to stop Man City's title race. We've seen Man City absolutely decimate Spurs. It's what I think we've talked about, the predictability. This is one game that it's very unpredictable, because yes, Man City are currently on a major high right now. They've managed to win 3-0 this weekend over Crystal Palace without star talisman Vivian Miedema, who has gone in for knee surgery again. They haven't quite said the extent of that injury. We just know that it was enough that she had to have surgery on it. But you've got Bunny Shaw. Jill Roord seems to be backfiring on all cylinders. Jess Park scored a wonder goal. Spurs have got Jessica Naz. You've got Martha Thomas. You've got Beth England. So many players happening. So that one's always a fun one for me. And then the late kickoff on Sunday is Man United versus Aston Villa. This one will also be a fun, unpredictable one, but maybe for slightly less fun reasons.
But could still lead to a really fun game.
Exactly. So yeah, so I'm excited for those 2.
All right. That is it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show this week. We'll catch you again next week. And as always, tune into our Patreon. We post extra content there. It's not that much. It's $3 or $5 per month. And you get weekly content. And you get to support independent media. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, we'll see you next week for the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.